Morning, everyone. Good to see everyone here. Bit of a different climate to this time. Usually we'd be discussing these things over a drink at a Lighthouse do, but unfortunately this year, as we all know, it's a little bit different. So we'll try and today keep it nice and brief, give you a good overview of what we do with the fire suppression, how we do it, lots of engaging videos. We're not going to be sitting here and boring you to death with PowerPoint, as I'm sure most people have been this year, being at home on some remote presentations. So yeah, not long. Just give it another minute, and then we will kick off at 1 minute past.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, do appreciate everyone's attendance. As Ed said, a lot of people are suffering from video conferencing and webinar fatigue at the moment, because there are so many of, well, it's mainly the only communication platform. So yeah, we do appreciate you sacrificing an hour of your day to go through this with us. So yeah, we'll give it another minute or two, get the numbers up, and then we'll crack on.
Yeah, there's no excuses for any techno problems as well. We've had a solid year of video conferencing, so everyone's used up their excuses of not IT failures, etc. during web conferencing and webinars. So yeah, it's been an interesting year for everyone to have to change how they pitch, how they sell, how they talk to people. So yeah, okay, everyone seems to be logging on nicely now.
Okay.
We've got some big hitters in the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Right.
So today, guys, thank you very much again, as Ed said, for attending. I'm Edward Barnes. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of REACTON Fire Suppression and Fireward. Just a brief introduction. You'll see REACTON behind us, and REACTON is the systems manufacturer and designer of the fire suppression systems that Fireward fits. Over to you, Ed.
Yeah, my name is Ed Shivers. I'm the Global Product and Certification Director for REACTON Fire Suppression. And as mentioned, we are in charge of doing the designs and testing and supply of the product for Fireward.
Okie dokie. Right.
So what we're going to do today is go through quite an engaging webinar, really giving you an overview of the fire suppression systems, the automatic fire suppression systems that Fireward offer. And I'll give you a bit of an overview of the different product ranges, how they work, some of the scenarios, and how they compare against other sort of technologies. And we've got some great videos to present as well. So yeah.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and share the screen now. We'll do our 43-minute presentation as we're 2 minutes past, and then we'll have 15 minutes for some questions at the end. And obviously, even after the webinar, we're both contactable, and you'll get an email after the webinar for any further inquiries or questions everyone's going to have. So I'm going to go ahead and share our screen. 2 minutes. Okay, so
okay, so hopefully everyone can see this. As we mentioned, it's obviously Ed Barnes and myself here doing this webinar. Just before we get started, I want to mention now, obviously this is in association with Lighthouse, a construction industry charity. So we're donating £5 for every attendee, which obviously goes to help the construction workers and their families in crisis. And the Christmas cracker part of this is the fact that we are, everyone goes into a prize draw where there is a potential to win 10 grand. So really appreciate everyone attending here. And you'll receive emails afterwards with details of all of this. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll get started, and what we want to do is to really give you not a too in-depth view of what we do, but you know, an overview of why you need automatic fire suppression. So what we've got here is our first slide, which really we boil it down to the main reasons of what automatic fire suppression system. It's basically a system that can deliver firefighting performance without any human intervention. They're completely autonomous. So, and for them to be autonomous, it needs to have an automatic detection system that can trigger it. And we'll go into more details about that later on. What the systems that Fireward offer are applied in either a total flood or local application method. And the systems that we provide are all pre-engineered. And pre-engineered means that it's a fixed fill, it's predetermined limitations and parameters from the testing that we do. And it makes installation much quicker, faster, no complex hydraulic calculations. You just stick within the limits that are in your user manual and you end up with a great performing system. If we boil it right down, simplest form is it's a means of detection, actuation, and delivery of a fire suppression agent. And these extinguishing agents are specifically tested to be effective against the risk of fires that they're associated with. So when it comes to plant vehicles, obviously we're addressing the Class B, Class A fire risks. And then when we look at the kitchen systems, we've got Class F, and then cabinets, we have different methods. So the agents we use are specifically designed for that system.
So yeah, and put into sort of a construction concept, really, we know the biggest area that Fireward services, or the biggest market Fireward services, is the plant and machinery sectors. And what you'll find is with fire suppression in different applications, for those that are familiar with building engineering systems, sprinkler systems, they're designed for each individual application that they're fitted to. So what we do at Fireward is we produce a simple package that is able to be retrofitted to a piece of equipment that, in essence, can detect and extinguish fires as and when they occur. So we're going to see an example of this. So you might think, okay, well, what does this look like? Is this a glorified sprinkler system? What is this? So we'll come on to what the system looks like, but I want to give you a video first of all as to why you need these systems fitted, especially in enclosed environments. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video. The video is of a waste and recycling site in the south. It's located in a typical warehouse environment, and they're processing wood. And the bit of equipment they're using is a large industrial shredder, well-known bit of kit. And what happens is it suffers a small hydraulic hose burst. So it's just a small pinprick hole that allows the hydraulic oil to escape that touches the hot parts of the engine. And what you'll be surprised to see is just how quickly, one, the fire takes hold on this piece of equipment, and secondly, how quickly the Fireward system extinguishes the fire. And you can get an idea and a flavour for how quickly this could have gone wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and you can already see on the video on the right-hand side the smoke that started to come out of the machine as the hydraulic oil is being heated. So you can see the smoke, hopefully the video is playing, so you can see the smoke building and building and building, and then you'll have ignition. So those flames are about 10 meters high, and the fire's been extinguished by the automatic fire system. You can see a small fire at the back of the shredder. That is actually wood that is external to the shredder. It's actually on top of it. But the system that we use, the primary extinguishing agent we use is dry chemical. And one of the reasons we use that is because you can see, even though the fire was outside, the little bit of fire that remained at the back of the machine, that was still extinguished because the dry chemical that was released by our system then filled that environment. And you can see a really well-trained fire extinguisher hero come in and run in with great aim and extinguish the small fire that was on the wood next to the machine. So that machine there is a £400,000 asset. That was extinguished within 3 seconds of it being detected, which all happens very, very quickly. And that particular operator was back up and running 4 hours later with only the cost of a recharge of our system and one replacement hydraulic hose, and that was the one that failed, causing the fire. So that, in a nutshell, is what our systems are designed to do on plant and machinery. It's a great video. It's the worst case scenario of a fire. if you can imagine that that's in a basement of a construction site or that's in a tunnel, these are the real risks presented by heavy equipment that doesn't have adequate, not any fire suppression, adequate fire suppression. And as we'll come on to, there's a number of differences between a fire suppression system that's fitted and an adequate one.
So this slide here, we've got a nice comparison here of what automatic fire suppression system looks like compared to a handheld portable fire extinguisher or blanket, and then a sprinkler system. I think really keeping in line with the previous slide where we had the shredder there catching fire, if we use that as an example when we go through these comparisons, it makes it very easy to associate our answers with it. So no human interaction needed. You can see fire took place, explosion, a lot of high energy. Within 3 seconds, it was out. You know, a handheld, obviously you can't do that. Sprinkler system, you know, that would have been activated at a different stage, and it wouldn't have been inside of the actual risk. So, yeah, some real comparisons there. Automatic shutdown of individual components, pumps, and everything like that. The systems we put on there would have those added in. So we obviously take away the parts that create a more fierce fire, you know, take away the air that's being supplied there from the fans and additional fuel coming in through from the likes of like a pump or anything like that. These can't be done by any handholds.
I think it's an important point to mention that the large systems that are designed to protect buildings like sprinkler systems, you would have still had a total loss of that machine in the meantime while the building system activated. So what we're trying to do here is we're not only protecting the machine from fire, but we're also minimizing the damage, as Ed's just said. That's a key part of what we do is that often operators with systems fitted don't really understand they've had a fire because the fire system has already gone off long before they've seen flames in a typical manned bit of kit like a wheel-loaded shovel or an excavator.
Yeah, and yeah, that table really sort of confirms that point that it will always be applied correctly because it's detecting and suppressing in the actual hazard itself. And it will give 24-hour, 24/7 protection. Yeah, a massive difference from the portable side. And as you can see, by the time the guy's seen that very big fire, you know, our system's done its job and he's coming in later on. So you can see the time differences. So if we crack on with the following slide, really try and give you an idea of what a system actually looks like. And we've got a couple of images on the side here. The Fireward system is completely autonomous and it's 100% pneumatic. So this is controlled through the proprietary detection tube that we have here. So it doesn't require any electricity for it to operate, which obviously gives you lots of peace of mind. And it's regardless of the status of the machine it's protecting, it has its own sort of capabilities built in. So you have, in all the examples, you have an extinguishing agent storage system, basically a posh word for a cylinder, which contains the extinguishing agent. You have a detection system. This is available in direct and indirect. So the two technologies, the top image there with the small cabinet is the direct. The tube is routed around the risk. Where there's heat, there's activation, but discharge directly where that heat source is. So it's in communication with the cylinder directly. However, in indirect, the detection tube has a pressure loss when it heats up, which then in turn opens a valve and delivers the fire suppressing agents through a discharge network and nozzles.
And in summary, basically, the direct systems that you see in the control panel are for small, localized environments, and the system that you see below are for much larger environments, like engine bays of heavy equipment. And the point I want to emphasize, which we talked about, was that there is no electricity required to actuate the system. It operates on a differential pressure. So what that means in English is that once the tube ruptures and it loses the air within the red tube you see on the screen, it activates the valves to then release the agent. So it's a completely intrinsically safe system that doesn't require any electric and cannot not go off when there is a fire detected.
Yeah, its default function is to activate when there's that pressure loss. So we're not relying on puncturing a cartridge and supplying pressure to the system. It's already ready to go and gives you that peace of mind. The last point there, we've got the ancillary functions. When we mention that, that's your isolation, so we can have it connected to a battery. It will interrupt the power supply. We can have pressure switches which can shut down some motors or anything like that, or alert people by through notification, whether that's visual or audible.
Yep. So they're the kind of combined things in summary that make up the core elements of the system. And the shutdown, as Ed said, is important on machinery to stop the flow of any diesel or hydraulic oil that has caused the fire in the first place. As probably some of you have experienced on plant and equipment, a large number of the fires are electrical fires, and the system, when it detects a fire, isolates the batteries and any electrical source onto the asset that we're protecting. So if an electrical fire does start, it means that we're isolating any more current from going into the fault that then has caused the electrical fire in the first place. So there's some really clever add-ons that we have with the system.
So we'll just go through really the sequence of how the system works from start to sort of the end. And really a Fireward automatic suppression system, the fire will start. This could be caused by a short circuit, an overloaded cable, diesel spray going onto a hot surface. Yeah. Whatever the situation is, that will provide radiant heat, and that bursts the detection tube and activates the fire suppression system. And the videos we've got here, the top one will show you what that looks like with a direct technology for your control cabinets and so on. And then the bottom one is an actual very high energy fire from the Research Institute of Sweden, where we do our testing. But in summary, the direct, the tube will burst, initiate discharge at the source of the fire. We're actually detecting and putting it out exactly where it starts. However, with indirect, the system is delivered through a discharge network after that tube has burst, as mentioned by Ed earlier. And then the ancillary items, which we touched on, such as pressure switches and so on, can control electronic modules. They can shut down power fans, ventilation, and also it could be connected to your building management system or control panels, which can then do proper audio and visual alarms for people as well. So what we do now is we play a video of the direct technology. You can see the tube heating up, burst, and the actual extinguishing agent coming out exactly where the tube bursts.
It's quite a brief video, but yeah, there should be some sound that plays, and you can hear the detection tube fail. But yeah, as Ed said, this is the detection part of the indirect system, but you will see in this case, as it's used in control panels, discharge and try to extinguish what it will extinguish the fire that you can see below the tube. So I'm going to go ahead and play that now. So you can see, it's such a quick video. It's such a quick video, but you can see the tube burst and then release the pressure that's within it. So the next video, we spend a lot of time researching and testing the systems, and we do that at accredited laboratories, as do all fire businesses. And this is just a very, very small window into some of the testing we do. This test we're going to show you below is one of the largest fire tests we do. And this simulates a large engine bay in a large piece of, in a large vehicle. So something in the plant world of a 40-ish ton excavator up towards a 70-ton excavator size engine bay. And what we have in the video I'm about to play is you're going to see that we've got the simulated cooling fan running full speed. We've got a hydraulic hose leak simulated with a spray of diesel and petrol into the enclosure. And there's a timer on the left, which you can see here. And we manually activate the system at 2 minutes. We give the fire time to establish in this test. And then the system must extinguish the fire with no reoccurrences of the fire. So this is just one out of hundreds of tests that we do on the system.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action.
So as you can see, that fire that you just saw was what we call a worst case scenario fire, very similar to the first one you saw in the video, where you've got all the combinations of wood, soaked in diesel, a spraying flammable fluid, a high airflow environment, and that's what dictates high performance systems that we fit at Fireward. We exceed everyone that has a certain approval for heavy equipment, and it's because our system is designed and tested to extinguish every conceivable fire inside an engine bay. And we have those systems that will be able to be fitted anything from a 3.5 ton forklift to the largest construction equipment you'd see on site. So that's basically a brief summary. Do you want to go through what we're going to see next?
Yeah, just to touch on that last video. You can see that there was a sort of closed environment, but obviously there's a lot of airflow. Just to let you know, those tests have been done, and we can share videos with you where there is no test enclosure around it, and it still has the same fire performance. So again, all of our systems are tested worst case. Yeah.
I mean, what I want to try and do, guys, is get on through the presentation, because there's a few extra videos I'd like to share at the end as well, which are quite good. So this video here is, we also do, one of the things we're passionate about is the education part of the systems and explaining to people how they work. It's not particularly easy, as you can imagine, because there's a lot of what's the best way of putting this professionally? There's a lot of corporate words used in the fire industry about how certain things work, etc., and how the different technologies work. But in essence, we're detecting a fire and extinguishing it. And what we're going to see here is a control panel system, so completely different to plant and equipment, but it's a real specialist area, and we're seeing a growth in this area as insurers demand that high voltage panels and large control panels are, in buildings, as well as on construction sites, as well as in recycling and waste transfer stations, and we're all seeing a demand where these control panel protection systems need to be fitted. And part of that education is we produce our own animations in-house.
Almost everything we do relies on power. From how we communicate.
A bit premature where I pressed the keyboard a bit early there. So basically, this is our own animation in-house, and we design these, and it's free to distribute, and it's all on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, I'll play this.
Almost everything we do relies on power. From how we communicate, manufacture, monitor, or build, power plays an integral part. Behind the scenes is a complex network of control panels and electrical cabinets. If these fail, the consequences can be devastating. The REACTON direct clean agent technology detects and suppresses the fire right where it originates. Energized equipment is exceptionally well enclosed. This means that traditional fire detection and protection systems will not provide the same level of performance. The proven pneumatic detection system requires no electricity to operate, giving you full peace of mind with zero false alarms. The key to minimal fire damage is early detection and suppression. The Clean Agent Fire Suppression System from REACTON is installed directly at the point of fire risk, providing rapid detection and suppression. Typical fire hazards within electrical equipment can present themselves as either faulty wiring, poor maintenance, overloaded circuits, or outdated equipment. Systems can be easily configured to provide notification through onboard pressure switches and our battery-operated beacon sounder. The pressurized tubing is installed in and around the fire risks, always in communication with the system contents. When a fire occurs, the tubing will burst at the point of highest heat. Immediate discharge of the extinguishing agent is started at the point of detection, providing fully automatic fire suppression 24/7. Simple integration to your building alarm or management system is also very easy. REACTON's clean agent range consists of 3M Novec 1230 fire protection fluid and FM200 waterless fire suppressant from Chemours, all offering unrivaled performance with zero cleanup. They're all non-corrosive, non-conductive, and completely safe for your sensitive electronics, so your system can be back up and running in no time.
Okay, so we've gone through there. You've seen a control cabinet fire suppression system. Again, they can we'll detail that in a bit more later on. But we'll rattle through these parts now because we understand that there is quite a bit of time to go through here. This is really an overview of vehicle fire protection. We can have these in indirect, as we mentioned earlier, and dual agent. And these can be sized from 1 kilo to 180 kilo. And that is obviously multiple cylinders attached. We use dry powder and wet chemical. And obviously, when we look at a dual agent, they are combined. So we provide the fast fire knockdown of the dry powder, which you saw in the video at the start, and then the rapid cooling from the wet chemical. As you will see in the video we're going to play, we had a GoPro inside of that engine. We've got protection from reignition, the fast knockdown as mentioned, but more importantly, these are A+ rated, PMARC accredited systems. And when you put that in direct comparison to a liquid-only system, it is 40% smaller when you use a dual agent. So that's a great space saving, as obviously there isn't always a huge amount of space available to put these cylinders on there. So applications, as you can see there, waste management, mining, bus and coach, forestry, agriculture and distribution.
Yeah. So the dry powder element is a really key part for us. There are other systems on the market that promote wet chemical, water mist. But the fact remains that dry chemical is the most effective agent at controlling the types of fires that are seen in heavy vehicle and road vehicle applications. And that's because dry chemical fills the void that you're about to see on a particular cat loading shovel. So that's one of those things. And any of the F1 fans on here would have watched a horrific fireball that erupted on Sunday's race. And you'll note that the fire extinguishers that are used on track to deal with that types of fire are dry chemical. And what they do is they take that initial large flame and knock it down to basically extinguish the fire that you see. And then the wet chemical that we add into the machine cools the hot parts like the turbocharger and manifold. So we're going to go ahead and Dave Brand, one of our engineers, is just going to quickly do a little video and show you a system discharge on a cat loading shovel. So over virtually to Dave.
Okay, so we completed the installation. We're now going to show you a system discharge. We're going to activate the system from using the in-cab button inside the cab. You'll see throughout the discharge that the engine will shut down and the batteries will isolate.
So you can see that the dry chemical fills the engine bay and the areas underneath. And what you can see is now the wet chemical cooling the manifold and turbochargers. And that was a hot engine, and you can see that now the steam has resided, and the components that you see, the turbocharger exhaust, are all cooled below a level that would cause ignition of flammable fluids. We designed the system for this period of the discharge to extend and last a long time, so that the wet cooling effect is extended to really cool the hot areas of the engine down. So I'll take this one, shall I? Yeah, so industrial equipment protection. So one of the things we often see on sites, and it's been there's been a few particular incidences in the UK of generator fires on construction sites. And when people think about industrial equipment, some people will think of various different aspects. On the right, we've got a CNC machine that we do a fire suppression system for, and then at the bottom, we've got a large generator that you can see there. But also, if you put this into context with welfare units on construction sites, they've got small generators located in the back of them, and they have fires and have had fires in the capital before. And it's the same principle of what you see in the vehicle systems. Is we've got a detection circuit, we've got an extinguishing agent that could be clean agent, like you saw in the control panel, that doesn't affect any electrical parts, it's non-conductive and there's no cleanup. Or it could be dry chemical or wet chemical, depending on the size. But in essence, it provides fast knockdown and rapid cooling of the hot areas. By cooling the hot parts, we prevent reignition of any fuels that have got onto a hot part. The systems are A+ rated. And then the suitability for the class of fires is really important, as Ed said at the beginning, depending on the application. And as we said, applications for the industrial side are an example are CNC, wind turbines, power generation, and static plant equipment. So it can be fitted to a lot more than that, but just gives you an overview of that. Electrical panels we have talked about, so we won't dwell on this a lot, but in essence, electrical panels of various different sizes, utilising the technologies you saw in the video with the control panel. Again, just some key points to pull out is there's no cleanup. You can, if you come to one of the shows last year, certainly not this year, you would have seen our iPads and phones dunked in this fluid. It's non-conductive, it doesn't damage anything, and your iPad continues to play underwater. So it's a fantastic chemical by Novec that we use, and a similar chemical with FM200. It's non-corrosive, and the applications for this type of system are control panels, electrical cabinets, electrical enclosures, and electrical housing. So that's sort of an overview, but it was very much related to the control panel system you saw earlier.
Just to add on to that last part there is, although that you might see that there's just a risk inside of the cabinet there, a lot of insurers are now looking at the location of these control cabinets and how the proximity to anything that could then be a combustible, because that can spread the actual fire, and then that becomes a much bigger issue. So a lot of people are specifying these because of the environment that surrounds them as well. And also you look at how critical that is to your business. If you can't afford downtime, a lot of people are mandating that there's a fire suppression system inside there now, which is it's good it's getting recognised, and it's great proven technology.
So I see some questions lining up. So we're going to take the questions in 15 minutes at the end of the presentation. So this is our domestic kitchen protection system, and this is a really specialist system. And it's most commonly found in student accommodation. I'll leave you up to you guys to work out why people like to fit fire suppression systems over cookers in student accommodation, but those who have been to university will probably know why. So in essence, what this system does, and we've got a video at the end of this to show you, but in essence what it does is it detects the fire from the hob in the same way, same technology, same system that you see in the plant and equipment in the previous video, but scaled right down to detect a fire over a hob. And then we use a specialist class F chemical, and what that does is it creates a foam blanket over the top of the pan. And then we have some accessories which then can switch off the hob and switch off the ventilation above the hob as well. So stops the fire traveling up the extraction, and obviously stops the heat source into the pan. So we're just going to go ahead and roll into that video.
Cooking at home is the largest cause of fire and injury in residential properties. The home is full of distractions that can quickly allow an unattended hot cooking pan to turn into a large fire, bringing devastation to your property. Conventional fire protection methods such as fire blankets and fire extinguishers require the presence of a person to tackle the fire correctly in order to be effective. Even if your property is equipped with an automatic sprinkler and smoke alarm, they will only be able to provide a warning and protect the building to aid escape. Fireward have a solution that will directly protect you and your property. This is achieved with the automatic residential kitchen fire suppression system. Being extremely compact and light, it can be installed in nearby cabinets, allowing for a discreet and safe location. The proven pneumatic detection system requires no electricity to operate.
Well, we've got a bit of a problem there. Hang on.
Which keep you fully aware of the system status. And it's easily configurable with any building alarm or electric and gas shut-off devices.
We got to that there.
When a fire breaks out from an unattended pan, the heat and smoke can quickly take over the kitchen. Rapid and fully automatic fire protection is the best solution. the unique pneumatic detection tube will burst and commence the deployment of the specialist wet chemical through our stainless discharge nozzle. Fast and complete knockdown of the fire happens along with a high heat resistance foam blanket to prevent reignition. All this happens within a 10-second window. Minimal cleanup means you can quickly get back to your normal day without incurring the huge devastation to your property that an unprotected kitchen would bring.
So that was a brief intro into the sort of residential or domestic kitchen protection system. Again, it doesn't require any electrical power and is specialised for those, as we said, student and assisted living accommodations, but can be fitted to other HOB scenarios as we've seen. So, right, we'll run through this quickly.
Yeah, we've probably got 10 minutes to get through the last sort of 5 slides. So. Really, these are the ancillary functions, equipment that we mentioned at the start. Battery isolation unit, you can see here, it basically uses pneumatic pressure to keep it in the open state. And then when there's a fire, the tube bursts and then it obviously breaks the contacts. This minimises the scale of the fire and any reignition. We have a monitoring system as well. Again, gives us clear status monitoring of the actual system that's attached, and then it will provide audible visual alarms, and then really allows the person in the cab to actually be able to electronically operate the system. So total control and knowledge from the actual cab of the vehicle there. They can actually be used on other functions as well, and we can take those questions later on. Manual actuator, again, allows manual actuation, but we can do remote system pressure checks, allows us to charge and commission the system as well from that point. And then lastly, we've got there the pressure switch. This could be incorporated into the system many different ways. It could be used as a rising pressure to give you positive confirmation the system's gone off, and then we can have engine shutdowns and pumps and motors and fans. But also we can have it so it has stops like in the kitchen system where it will cut off the fan or any electricity, but it can also be given notification to a fire control panel for low pressure faults or anything like that, and monitoring and providing notification.
And the monitoring system is something we're pioneering at the moment, and we into Q1 of next year will be in the position where we live remotely monitor all of the systems that Fireward fits in the UK. So where you've got incidences where some bits of equipment, whether that's external site works in the middle of nowhere where machines are parked up at night, to control panels located in the basement of buildings, we'll be able to monitor the system status of all of our fire suppression systems. So in essence, in an old school way, the BT Red Care of monitoring, very similar to something like an ADT does as well, we're able to independently monitor the pressure in our systems and whether or not they've been affected by fire, and then look at also the temperatures of those. So that's where we want to move into is the remote monitoring side of the systems, to be able to give even more notice to customers where there is an issue.
For this one, really, I'd like to leave this to the sales guys, which I hope you'll be calling after this webinar, and they can go into detail about why we're different. But really, it's you'll see it on every touch point of the experience with Fireward. The documentation, the level of training, the communication channels, and really our animations, as you've witnessed some of our great in-house animations that we can provide. This really sets us apart from the others, but really it's the last one that's not up on there, which is the people within the company that makes us different.
And I think, and it's a great thing as well, is everything that all of the valve technology, everything we design is manufactured in the UK. We do all our own flow testing, as you can see in the bottom right, in-house. So it's a company that's been built on great principles with some fantastic staff. and a real team around the business with a passion to solving these issues that originally plagued the waste and recycling industry, which is where Fireward was born out of. But obviously now looking at other risks that are presented in construction and their related industries. So yeah, it's a big training and education of our systems is almost just as important as the products themselves, because without a system being installed to the right standard, using the right equipment, it doesn't matter how good your fire system is if it's not installed and maintained as per our guidance. So that's the kind of stuff that REACTON and Fireward work together on. It's a great relationship between the two businesses.
So this slide here is an overview of our accreditations, obviously focused on the PMARC, which is an accreditation from the Research Institutes of Sweden. And we've got here the comparison of the SPCR 199, which is for the heavy vehicle standard. And really, this is a major thing for the company. We're the first people globally to have this approval, but not only did we achieve it before anyone else, we actually got the highest rating that you could actually achieve from this. I always try to tell people that you can probably get a good score if you put enough systems, extinguishing agent and cylinder size and nozzles on it, but we achieved it with only a 4 kilo powder and a 4 kilo wet chem. So I don't see that being beaten in the industry, and we've really set the benchmark. So not only we're the first in the world to do it, we've obviously set the benchmark for the most economical compact size as well. So we believe it's going to stand the test of time. And as you can see, there's some big names out there, but we're the first people out there with it. And
it's testament to everyone's effort with it. This is only one of the accreditations that REACTON has, that obviously Fireward systems have, that we fit. And this particular one was probably about a £1.1 million investment into gaining the approval, the research and development that went into the products as well. So yeah, for us, it's always being at the cutting edge to make sure that not only do we have these approvals, but we perform better than everyone else when it comes to the approvals.
Yeah, and an important takeaway from this is that the valve and the systems that go through this rigorous testing, which you'll see in more detail now, is the same product that will be used on your control cabinet, your generator, CNC machine, although we can't
use the kitchen system as well.
The kitchen system. So they're well over engineered for that. Although we can't use that accreditation for a kitchen, we know that we've got the peace of mind that the product's gone through that. And as you can see in this slide here, this is just a little snapshot of what the component quality looks like. But we've got the temperature cycle in there on the far left, where they're in a climatic controlled environment. And these ones went down to minus 40 to plus 80, and that's cycled over 96 hours. Then they have the corrosion test as well, and that goes on for 3 weeks. And then we have a vibration test, which we've got a video for in a minute. But this vibration test is extremely tough, and it actually goes on 32 hours in each axis, and there's 3 axes on there. But also it has shocks as well, and it has 5,060 shocks, and it's the most stringent vibration test out there. And after it's gone through all of that temperature cycling, corrosion and vibration, you need to discharge the system, and you need to discharge a certain amount. And I personally went and did the discharge testing, and we actually discharged the entire 9 kilo cylinder apart from 6 grams of powder, which is incredible after 96 hours on that vibration. So we know that the system can take a huge amount of punishment, and it gives you that peace of mind when you put it on your construction equipment. You know when it's called upon, it works.
And I think a lot of systems that are used in construction by some of our competitors in the UK at the moment, on especially the rail industry, is a good example. Most of the components that are fitted have never ever, and this is quite worrying, and it's something that we've been trying to stress for many years, have never ever been vibration tested, have never ever been subject to environmental temperature changes. And the issue with that is that while systems work fine when they're just manufactured, after a 10-year life on a machine, they've been subjected to an enormous amount of vibration and stress during when they're fitted. So for us, our rubber stamp on our quality is not just about a system that looks good the day it's installed. It's about a system that, you know, whatever point during its operational life can perform, no matter what kind of life it's had prior to that day. So here's a quick video of what the vibration test looks like.
Just to let you know, that's obviously 32 hours in that axis, and then obviously it changes axis, but that it's extremely demanding. It's got a huge
it's 96 hours, isn't it, in total,
yeah.
In all three axes. So yeah, it doesn't look like much, but I'm sure, I can assure you, when you're there and you can see every single one of those components bending and moving during the stress, it's an incredibly abusive test to the bits of equipment.
And recently I've actually been involved with some military specs as well. It thoroughly exceeds even the vibration test that the military actually proposed. So it's great that we have that as our benchmark for all of our products.
So here's just a selection of some great brands that both REACTON and Fireward work with. Some really interesting projects that we do for the Ministry of Defence. NATO, we do some specialist vehicle fire protection systems on some rocket launchers for NATO, which is pretty interesting. I tend to go out and deal with the rocket launchers. That's quite a good day out. But we many things that you might drive past and not realise. The majority of the NHS ambulances that you'll see on the road today have a fire system fitted, and it's usually our fire system fitted. Little known fact, Rolls-Royce CNC equipment that they use to manufacture aircraft engines is protected with REACTON systems. Fireward obviously works with all the OEMs of equipment suppliers across the UK, CAT, Volvo, Liebherr, JCB, Komatsu, all of the well-known names. We've got some fantastic backing from a multitude of insurance companies based around the various different systems that we work with. So we just got, it's a brilliant partnership between Fireward and REACTON, because it enables us to develop and test products in REACTON and then send them into Fireward. And then the Fireward engineers will feed back improvements. You know, it's a closed loop R&D cycle that happens all the time, every day. So yeah, that's a great overview of sort of the people that we end up working with. So just a little bit of information there. So Ed Shiv is a Global Product and Certification Director for REACTON. You've got a mobile number there, and you'll get a copy of this presentation and the PowerPoint with it. Mark Scott, who's the Sales Director of Fireward, who I'm sure a number of you know well. So really, that's it from us from the presentation side. Again, just very much a thank you for everyone attending a very unusual sub-Lighthouse charity event. It'd be a little bit different if we were in normal circumstances, but hopefully next year we'll see everyone in the real do rather than virtually. So what we'll do now is we'll quickly flip over to some questions, shall we? So I'm just going to go ahead and stop my screen share. Right, let's have a look at some questions. Okay, so tyre coverage, David. So we do have some applications, military applications, where we can cover tyreage. You can cover tyres with our system. It's something that we've tested before and they work. So it depends on, again, the system you use depends on the environment the vehicle's in. If it's just road tyres, it's a standard goods vehicle, yes, you can put a detection system in, and yes, you can put nozzles over the tyres. The system's effective against burning rubber, so that's definitely an application we could have a look at. Noel, good to see you, Noel. How effective is it on electric vehicles, which are becoming ever more popular? As we know, fires can be very serious when they occur. So electrical vehicles, there's a number of good studies going on about battery technology and about fire suppression with the batteries. The problem remains with batteries is that batteries in vehicles tend to be sealed, yeah, because obviously you're driving along, you hit a puddle, the last thing you want is water in your batteries. So the issue with electrical fires in batteries is that once, and this, we were at a conference about 3 years ago where they were discussing this, and basically it was someone from one of the coach manufacturers was talking about it, and basically when a battery pack ignites, or when it self-combusts, or it reaches that point of thermal runaway inside a battery pack, there's almost nothing that can be done to prevent the batteries from entering thermal runaway that are next to it, apart from if the design of the battery stops that from happening. So you can do that by separating compartments when you're designing batteries. In terms of fire suppression systems dealing with the actual batteries themselves, it's something that what we tend to do is we focus more on the detection side for the batteries. But one of the key parts on electric vehicles that are often overlooked is everyone talks about the batteries being a risk of fire, which they are. But actually, the more common part of a fire on an electric vehicle isn't from the batteries. It's from the wiring and the control circuitry that controls the batteries, ancillary functions on a bus, and that we do protect against using the similar system you saw on the electrical control panels. So vehicle batteries there are claims out there that someone's done something, and there's some funny YouTube videos where someone says we can deal with electrical fire batteries on cars, and then have a battery this big that they've managed to put the fire out on, which is quite amusing. So yeah, batteries is still very much an unknown, Noel, but in terms of the rest of the equipment on the buses, the cables, the control mechanisms, which are actually more likely to catch fire, we do offer a system to detect and suppress those fires.
Yeah, but just to add on to that part that Ed's mentioned there, we really see that there's two methods of dealing with this, but really until there's a robust third-party testing program out there, it's very hard for people to be able to verify the performance of the system.
Yeah.
So we work on the method that we know that there's only 3 ways for the lithium-ion battery to actually go into that sort of problem, is when you've got your thermal abuse, you've got your electrical abuse or physical abuse, and we cater for that in the different products that we can offer. And one of those is obviously a very detailed detection system, which obviously is picking up on the off-gassing and everything like that. And we can deal with it at its earliest stages, and that allows us to mitigate the problem that way. And then we combine that with a fire suppression system, which is proven in the vehicle arena, such as the P market, everything like that. Or, you know, people still, as Ed mentioned, forget that there's still normal fires going on. There's lubrication that's involved in any vehicle. There's still certain hydraulics and everything like that. They still catch fire. And one of the problems that get the lithium-ion battery into that problem is heat. So if we can address that before it gets to that point, we still have a proven system there.
Another question from David: can you confirm what form of third-party accreditations you have for the design, installation and competency of fitters? Yeah, David, we've obviously got a range of different systems depending on different applications. So we've got accreditations, for example, on buses and coaches for their fire systems. We've got accreditations for heavy vehicle. We've got certain approvals for different parts of the systems, and then ultimately the training or the competency of the fitters is an area actually we've been working with the industry about training. So one of the things that's really important to understand is on vehicle systems, for example, there isn't a standardized training route for fitters to fit heavy equipment. It's usually dictated by the equipment manufacturer. Now, RISE, what's the accreditation at RISE for the engineers training?
Well, they do the risk assessment.
Yeah, the risk assessment module. So that's a great course as a generalised overview of risk assessment in engine bays. But the training that we give the installation engineers has been developed through the years of what we do, and then we have that audited by the third-party accredited houses that then give us the approval. So the approvals of the fire systems are not only for whether the product does what it says on the tin and works putting out fires, but it's also about the manual and the training competencies that we give engineers to fit these systems. And another part that really, and that's why I said in the presentation that training and our mentoring programs in the business are really key, because when you go out to a piece of equipment, every piece of equipment is different. So there needs to be your training and mentoring for your engineers, and the technical backup they get needs to be comprehensive, because one week they could be installing to 5 different types of machine, the next week they're dealing with another 5. So equipment, especially heavy equipment side, is very, very bespoke. So that's and there's a number of other accreditations which we can come on to if you want to drop us an email after, David, and Ed can give you a brief email of what we do with engineers and third-party accreditation.
Yeah, but essentially, REACTON and Fireward are spearheading some third-party fire suppression for vehicles sort of training programs. However, it's typically controlled from your accreditation. So with our PMAR, your installation is verified. They do audits on certain installations. Your manuals have to be up to date in the risk assessment. So it's controlled from that point of view. But with some people, they may be aware, like when you fit a total flood gas suppression system, you have like a LPS 1204, I think it is, for the actual fitters, and that controls that side. There isn't anything as such as a generic one for the pre-engineered systems out there. It's down to the actual approval you're working with.
Adrian, how are we, Adrian? So Adrian sent in the question. Will you explain the need for SPCR 1972 and when you expect to get that completed? Also the S approval. So SPCR 197 is a approval that sits alongside the PMARC 199 and 183 approvals, and that focuses on the detection element of the system. So the PMARC side focuses on the installation and design and testing of the extinguishing apparatus, and then the SPCR 197 concentrates on detection. That'll be finished by Q2, that approval, and the AS approval, it might be worth you catching up with Adrian on, not to confuse the audience as to what that is, but that's an Australian standard, and similar timescales with that, Adrian, as well. So Ed's pretty busy at the moment, and he's got approvals coming out of every year at the moment. So and he's got me saying, when can we have them done quicker? So
it's all good news.
It is all good news, yeah. So we've had a great year, haven't we, really? We've progressed the systems a lot this year. We've got some phenomenal customers on board, and I think for us, again, it just goes back to the more we can educate people on the systems and the more we can get some training and knowledge out there. And the reality is, especially on the smaller systems, is they're nowhere near as expensive as people that I've spoken to believe they are. So they're really accessible. And as I said, the insurance companies as well that back a lot of the plant and back a lot of the construction sector are really keen to see the movement of these systems into the sector, because they're so accessible and because they're so easy to fit. So it's a real part of the education that we've got planned up for next year. So
there's some real exciting things coming up, and I'm lucky enough to be involved and see it at that the front end of the fire testing, component testing, and it's just really nice having all of your what we already have confidence in the system, but having that verified by other people. Who obviously take a lot of money to do that, but we understand that people want to see those bits. And just to touch on that 197, all the testing is all done there. We passed everything. It's just, again, just going through the last parts of
Your favourite part, paperwork. You love paperwork, don't you?
Yeah.
I've never met anyone who likes paper, but as much as it does. But
Yeah, all the fire tests are done there,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I like the fire test, not the paperwork. That's a bit more. So, I suppose there's some firewall customers on here as well. I can see in the attendees list, and yeah, I suppose from my side, it's been a very strange year, as we all know, and I'd like to just take the time to thank every single one of Fireward's customers that has stood by us this year through some really challenging times. The real focus to make sure that we've supported you through these challenging times. And yeah, just thanks again for all the support that's been given to Fireward and REACTON, all of those in the industry, as well as those outside of the industry that support it as well. Really, yeah, very grateful for this year. It could have been a lot worse, and it's been a good year for everyone this year. So yeah, very grateful and privileged to be able to say that. So yeah, great. So again, thank you very much, guys, for attending the webinar. I hope that we haven't bored you to death. It's definitely not a substitute for a drink at a Lighthouse do, unfortunately. But hopefully we've kept it lively with some videos. And again, if you've got any questions, please email in on the email that's going to go out to you with a copy of the presentation and a recording. Ed's about, I'm about, and Mark Scott's about on Fireward, so please don't hesitate to contact us. And yeah, thanks very much for taking an hour out of everyone's working from home life at the moment to listen to us talk about fire suppression.
Yeah, no, really appreciate your attendance, and we were actually bang on with the time, which is rare.
Look at that.
Yeah, thank you again, and I hope you found it really valuable. But if there's any questions, no matter how small or whatever, send them over. We can always deal with them, and we'll give you our full support.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great new year, and then hopefully we'll see you again in person in the new year.
Yeah.
Take care.
Cheers.